So we're just going to go around and talk about our year in review, talk about our industry trends and marketing shifts that we noticed in the last year, campaign and content highlights from different client projects, client and audience learnings, and marketing process and team growth internally. And then we'll talk about some predictions for next year. So Meredith, I'm going to pass it to you first, and we'll start with any industry trends or marketing shifts that you noticed in the last year.
Sure. So there were a few things that stood out to me for the last year. I would say that personalization at scale became non-negotiable, especially with email and ad copy. Also, I think everyone knows AI-powered tools like ChatGPT were game changers for content creation and brainstorming. I also found that audiences want a quicker value. So shorter emails, faster loading landing pages, and simplified call to actions. But on that same note, messages needed to come across quickly, but also pack a punch. So that's what I saw in 2024 for trends and market shifts.
Awesome. How about you, Gwen? Did you notice anything interesting?
I mean, 2025 was definitely the year of AI. I think all marketers and marketing departments are using AI to some degree, whether that is for content creation, whether that's for brainstorming, note-taking and transcripts, whether you're using it for image generation, whether you're using it to help with like SEO, putting together slide decks, whatever it might be. I think it was also kind of the year that we realized that AI is this amazing new tool, but it is very valuable. And also seeing some trends in terms of, for organic growth in digital marketing, that AI has some positives. But it also, we're starting to see trends where human written content is definitely scoring higher in organic search patterns, even when you are factoring in like AI generated search. So I think that's really interesting and something to keep an eye on. I would say 2025 into 2026 is really a time of reckoning with the clients about for overall organic traffic, which, as we all know, takes a while to bear fruit, but all of your SEO projects are going to have a higher return on investment than anything you're going to do through paid digital. But it often gets put on the back burner because you can see more immediate results. Whether that's Google search, whether you're working with Meta or LinkedIn or different social platforms, whether you're in a very niche industry and doing banner ads and popular places like ThomasNet or industry publications, that organic is still the bread and butter for the majority of your traffic. So really working with companies in order to do voice optimized AI and image optimized SEO to really rethink content and search patterns.
There's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, I definitely have seen a lot of the same thing. How about you, Rick?
Well, you all know this, but one of the things that I'm tasked with is making sure our firm is still relevant in 5 years. And so you all have teased this already, but last year for me, it was really spent digging into generative AI. And so a transformative moment for me was hearing someone speak about custom GPTs at a conference I went to in May. And then I decided to go to the marketing AI conference last fall. And then so learning number one for me is just when I was at the marketing AI conference, I talked to a ton of marketing leaders, and only a small handful of them were really proficient with AI. And all the others, like just a vast majority of them, still searching for use cases. And so after leaving the conference, I realized people are trying to find use cases instead of starting with identifying the real business challenges that they're looking to solve. So for example, like, on our team, we don't have an analyst. We don't have a data scientist that can look at marketing data and find insight from that. So that's a skills gap for us. Mm-hmm. So that's a business challenge, right? A business challenge is we need an analyst. And so the question becomes, can we use AI for that? So I think the trend for 2025 is going to be identifying business challenges first, and then building AI assistants to solve those challenges. So I developed a model for companies to identify and then pilot and roll out AI tools in their marketing organizations. I call it the Create framework. You'll see a blog post about that shortly. So I've got that ready to go, and that's coming, so stay tuned. One of the other things I wanted to kind of call out here is that companies are trying to figure out how to optimize their websites for generative AI. I've also heard this called GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, by Andy Crestodina and some others. But more and more people are asking questions through ChatGPT and Perplexity, Gemini, and Copilot. And as these models prepare answers, they're citing their sources. And so people are clicking on those citations. And then, so that brings up the question, how does a company optimize for that? And so we're still testing some different approaches, at our firm, as you all know. But the best way to optimize is just to include lots of detailed descriptive content on your products and services in text format. So, video has been a major trend in the 2020s so far, and it continues to be, but making sure that that content is also found somewhere in text is really important as well. So as we find more about that, we'll be sharing it. And then there's one more thing that I wanted to mention, and that's a new and really interesting feature for HubSpot called Prospecting Agent. And it uses HubSpot's Breeze Intelligence, which is their AI offering, similar to Agentforce for Salesforce, but it uses it to research a contact and then compose a custom prospect email sequence for them based on their activity and their interactions with your business. So you can either put it on autopilot or it's editable, so you can go in and change the emails as well. So that's brand new, and I'm actually going to be testing this feature for us to try to re-engage some old contacts in our database. And so that new feature could be particularly useful for clients who depend on outreach for business development.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of the same things that you all have mentioned, and definitely have seen an uptick in organic traffic, and also in direct and referral traffic. A lot of traffic coming from, Perplexity, Gemini. I've seen ChatGPT. So definitely can tell that people are not only using these tools, but also using them to find and then go to the companies that they're looking for. I think one of the things that became pretty important for us that I noticed is just making sure that we have that alignment between our company values and ethics and how we're using AI and how we're guiding clients in using AI. So I thought that was a really, really interesting conversation that had come up last year, and development of our, ethical AI use, documentation and guidance. So clients are definitely asking about AI. They're asking more how to use it. They're asking, about the dangers of AI. Some of them are kind of shy of using it at all, but overall it's just like the hot topic of last year. And I think one of the coolest thing I saw in HubSpot was the prospecting tool. And like you were saying, Rick, of how you can use that for BD teams, marketing teams, sales teams, where, HubSpot's intelligence will go in and find the data for you that we would have had to use maybe 2 or 3 different tools to find the information that you can now get within HubSpot. So that's pretty cool too.
I know we're all really focusing on AI, which fair enough. 2025 was definitely a year where all sorts of tools rolled out. And I think everybody across all industries was reckoning with, do we use it? How do we use it? And so on. But I think one of the core marketing principles that all of us came of age as baby marketers through where we are now, good content, good connections with people, those matter more than anything you can do with AI.
Mhm.
It is very difficult to use AI as a plug and play. You still have to have genuine connection and understanding of your audience. You still need to provide really good content. You still need to think through buyers' journeys. You still need to have good market research and so on. AI just provides tools for you to do that better, but it doesn't replace basic marketing and basic sales. So 2025 is definitely the year of AI. We all use AI. We all have different use case studies, but it doesn't replace the basics of marketing and sales, which it'll be interesting to see if there are generative tools in the future that can replicate that piece. But right now, you still have to have a good marketer, a good salesperson using that AI and making good decisions about how to use it and being able to fact check it as well and have that gut response about whether things are on brand or on message and so on.
Mhm.
Brian,
So
are you going to tell us something about AI?
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about AI, we also have to include XAI and Grok. That is becoming a really powerful side of things that not everyone is using as much as Gemini or Perplexity and stuff like that. But that is becoming a much bigger deal. I think what's interesting with AI, like, yeah, it can definitely assist on some smaller tasks or getting like giving you a head start. But it's definitely still lacking on real-time data. So just the pace that, at least from the development side, that browsers are updating, the languages like CSS and JavaScript, like they're constantly like evolving and constantly pushing the boundaries and doing new things. APIs, it was a big topic for last year. So really like hooking into HubSpot's API to work with workflows or work with contacts, even content. They're constantly like updating that, and where AI falls short a lot of times is not being up to date on where the documentation is, and that this is updated to version 3 now instead of version 2. So yeah, it definitely helps getting the head start, but it does have some issues with up to speed, up to date data. But outside of AI, there are a few different trends that I've seen from the development side. So first is related to more of your visual editing experience with content. So like the actual content editor, either in HubSpot or WordPress, it's all moving in a direction where everything is easy to drag and drop. You can customize a page, even for a beginner marketer, like being able to go in and edit your content in line and then move it to where you want it to be. There's definitely been like a major push for more of the visual editors, and a push to not be as heavy as they used to be. So like Elementor is a page builder that has had a lot of use in the WordPress world. A lot of agencies have used that, but it was always criticized for just being very, very heavy on the code side, which hurt page speed, hurt SEO, because your overall like document was longer than the search engines were able to like actually view, or like the page speed, especially for mobile. But now that everything is kind of like moving in that direction, now we're seeing trends of trying to optimize that, trying to make it cleaner, make it easier to use, but also better overall for like how your users are actually using them. And along the same lines of like how are your users are accessing your content, accessibility has really become like a major push. Not necessarily just last year, but last year we really saw browsers and the different languages, for development, really make it easier and more accessible from a development standpoint to really include all that stuff. So color contrast, making sure that everything is labeled, not just alt text for images, but for icons and iframes and YouTube videos and even just like navigational elements like toggles, like just making sure that everything's very clear regardless of how you're accessing the site. If you're listening to it with text to speech, or you don't have access to a mouse, you're just tabbing with your keyboard. And yeah, it's become like a bigger deal, but it's also a lot easier to implement now.
I would agree with that. As a non-developer who has to work in WordPress and HubSpot all the time, it's gotten much easier.
Yeah,
we've had like all but one of our website projects this year they've specifically requested ADA compliance. Like it's a pretty strong signal at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we talk about some client learnings and audience learnings? Meredith, do you have anything you'd like to share that you learned in last year?
I would just say in terms of needs or expectations, clients are asking for more transparency and real-time reporting. So they want more dashboards and they want to see more shared live data. I also noticed that there's a stronger focus on ROI. So clients want to be able to tie campaigns to revenue and not just leads. I think clients are interested in digging deeper into the numbers and what they actually mean, and just expanding their knowledge of data. Also, on another note, I do feel like there's an increase for demand for social proof, such as reviews or testimonials and case studies. I think people want to understand the use case, like was mentioned earlier. So how a product or service solved a challenge, improved a process, or delivered tangible results. It helps visualize success and build credibility in a way that traditional marketing copy can't always achieve. So I think that's been a change in how we present on to a larger audience. So yeah.
You have anything you'd like to add to that, Gwen?
I've definitely seen a move to, and this is something that I'm really excited about, that marketing departments are much more interested in having a clear understanding of the evolution of privacy laws and really drilling down into their platforms and their tools and how they're providing that compliance, and also trying to keep their thumb on the pulse of future data laws. I think also like micro communities and niche platforms are something that people are interested in. I think the micro communities in particular are really vital, especially in SaaS, and that's been really fun to kind of work with and think work on strategy for that. And I think also chatbots have been around for a really long time. They're not new or revolutionary, but their ability to mimic a more human type of interaction and to provide progressive resources has really kind of developed, or at least has been on the radar of more people in the last year. So that's been interesting to see. Again, I don't think that we're reinventing the wheel with any of this, but it's been interesting to see clients' perceptions of tools and of strategies evolve. And as Meredith mentioned, ROI is always top of mind, always.
I think we always think digital first, but most clients that we work with are relationship first in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so, our challenge is always to find a way for the digital strategy to dovetail in with the relationship part of what they're doing. And I mean, our business is a relationship business too. We do a lot of relationship selling. And so, the challenge is to find a way for the digital strategy to complement that relationship sale.
Mhm. I think too that we've seen a little bit of a shift where clients are looking to work with us more as an extension of their team versus just kind of outsourcing things to us or delegating certain strategies or things to us too. And I can definitely echo what you're saying, Rick, because a majority of the feedback I've gotten over the past year from the clients that I'm involved in, of course, they care about the results, they care about the revenue, they care about the leads, but they really appreciate the transparency that we commit to, the empathy, the flexibility if they have a lot going on in their company or in their personal lives. They really appreciate that, just reaching out a hand to say, okay, well, how can I help you through this and get some wins for you while you're dealing with these other things. So that's something that I've noticed. And I think too, like long-term strategies are really important. So sometimes you'll work with clients who want those quick wins and they want to change new ideas all the time and new strategies all the time. But what I'm seeing with the clients that I'm involved in is that long-term strategies work. And if you commit to those and you stay consistent and you don't change your strategies in the middle of the year or often, you do see the wins. It might take a little bit longer, but it's better for lasting growth for the company.
Amber, you and I are on the organic traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how much fruit it can bear, and it costs the least per lead, per conversion and everything, but it's not the new shiny thing. And I really appreciate our clients who have that trust in us for overall strategy. And, we can work on short-term win projects, but really dedicate those hours and that time to bringing them long-term wins that'll bear fruit for years to come.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, SEO isn't the snazzy, shiny thing, like you said, but it works. How about any marketing process changes or, things that you've learned, internal team growth or collaboration that's happened over the past year?
I would say with some clients, I know the stereotype in larger corporations that marketing and sales either work beautifully together or are very oppositional. And it's been really interesting to work with clients where people have double roles, both within marketing, sales, and sometimes within the C-suite as well, to see the fluidity between marketing and sales rather than having them as rigid departments. So it's no longer a matter of do they work well together or not? Is it antagonistic or not? It's how can we cross-train people and how can people be a marketer and a salesperson and vice versa? That's really interesting to see. I'm thinking more of SaaS and some of our other traditional verticals. But it's fascinating to see and to also try and look and see, are there still any of those, classic archetypal marketer versus sales kind of stuff going on? And, you see little pieces, parts in there. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting to talk to a salesperson who knows everything about the marketing funnel and vice versa, a marketing person who can hop on and, go attend a conference and sell and everything in between, and who really understands all of the sales analytic needs and everything. It's really interesting to see that develop.
In my experience, the clients who either are involved in multiple facets of marketing and sales or who collaborate well together see better results because they have their finger on the pulse all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're knowing which leads are the most valuable, which ones turn into clients, which which marketing efforts led to those interactions.
And we've actually, Meredith and I work with a client that it's been interesting to see a human resources part of a large corporation approach their talent acquisition and retention from a marketing point of view, thinking about branding, messaging, honing in on key values and so on as being part of their total acquisition and retention strategy, and being able to bring some wins in for them and seeing that marketing hive mind stretch out into other departments. Interested to see what other departments' wisdom, comes into marketing.
I will say with one example of a client of ours, we interviewed their sales team members as a content brainstorming session. So interviewing each individual sales team member, they were able to provide insights into prospect objections and common questions they get from their customers. And that helped us with shaping more relevant blog topics as well as nurture emails. So our content has become more well-rounded and solution-oriented. But I also found that it fostered stronger relationships with our client. The sales team, I think, felt heard and valued, and their ideas were more innovative since they're on the front lines of those topics. So I think it all, like we've kind of been saying this whole conversation, goes back to building those relationships and just making people feel heard and that their ideas are valued.
Yeah, I think overall I've seen a trend, at least with the clients that I've worked with over the last year, just being more into the collaboration side, even from the design and development perspective, like wanting to bounce ideas off of, wanting to actually like meet and screen share so we can look at it together, not just sit, wherever they are and review it and then come back, but like actually doing it together. And I think that's been a nice change from what we've been used to.
Rick and I just got back from visiting a client and getting to have a one-day kind of digital summit. It made a huge difference. We've known the client. We love this client, but it's so much more meaningful to have the in-person time, and we were able to work with another vendor of theirs, and that really helped cement the relationship in a way that all of our digital meetings now, I feel like, have a depth to them and an understanding of who every team is and what's going on from a big picture strategy perspective, that it just changes the working relationship, just, minutely, but it really does make a difference.
What about predictions for this next 9 months that we have left in 2025?
Not about prediction, but I would say that circling back to like fostering those client relationships, clear communication is super important. I think from meeting and having those working sessions, things can get, forgotten or lost in translation. So just really setting a line of clear communication and following up with an email or with just some type of written recap is super helpful. So just like trying to prevent most fires before they begin with clear communication is definitely a goal I have for this year.
I know that one of the things that companies tend to do when there is a lot of uncertainty is just sort of freeze. And Amber, to your point earlier, I don't think that that's the best way to do it. Like we're certainly not freezing our marketing just because there's a bunch of uncertainty and because our pipeline might not look the same way it looked back in January. We're continuing to we're going to do more, and we're going to double down on that. I mean, we just paid for a research survey to be done because we want to do that in the face of this uncertainty, even though it may affect our clients. It may affect, the businesses they work with, but I don't want to fall behind, so I'm going to continue doing our marketing. I'm not going to pause any of that just because, there's economic uncertainty.
I mean, look what happened during the pandemic, right? 2020, 2021, and into 2022, especially the clients that we worked with that stayed consistent, that stayed on the path, like they're still doing their thing. They, for the most part, bounced back unless it was an industry that this really was heavily impacted. But those who didn't and pulled back on budget and pulled back on spend and shifted strategies, like really struggled to keep up. It's more, companies are going to have to be smarter about what they are putting their budget toward and really assessing performance and efficiency. And like what we do with our marketing is putting effort into the things that are going to bring return, not putting energy and spend into things that are just either not going to get results or are going to take, multiple years to get results, or really, really slow game.